Emma had always believed that love came in simple forms, quiet gestures, unspoken understanding, the kind of affection that never needed to be declared. She had seen it once, years ago, when her older sister Claire met Daniel. They were the couple everyone envied. Charming, composed, beautiful together in a way that seemed almost unfair. When they married, Emma cried, not because she was sad, but because it felt like the world had arranged itself perfectly. Claire had always been the golden one, ambitious, radiant, with a confidence Emma could never imitate. Daniel, with his calm voice and steady eyes, seemed like the final piece that completed her. Emma never imagined she'd fall in love with him. It started slowly, the kind of slow that sneaks up on you when you're not paying attention. Claire and Daniel had moved into a house near their parents, the kind of suburban comfort that smelled like new paint and ambition. Emma visited often. She was still in college back then, broke and unsure, often dropping by for dinner because Claire insisted. Daniel would cook sometimes, his quiet concentration in the kitchen, his sleeves rolled up, the sound of him humming softly. Those little things began to linger with Emma longer than they should have. At first, she didn't notice the shift. She only knew that she liked talking to him. He listened, really listened, in a way most people didn't. When she talked about her failed art classes, he didn't offer advice or brush it off. He'd just tilt his head and say, maybe failure isn't the opposite of success. Maybe it's part of it. The way he said it stayed with her. When Claire got her promotion and started traveling more often, Emma found herself spending more time at their house. She told herself it was to keep Daniel company. So he doesn't eat frozen pizza every night, she'd joke, but deep down, she knew it wasn't about food. It was about the way the air changed when they were alone together. They'd sit on the couch, watching documentaries or old movies. Sometimes they'd talk for hours. Daniel told her about his first heartbreak, his childhood dog, the manuscript he'd once tried to write but never finished. He had a quiet way of revealing himself, like peeling back pages of a book, only when someone was patient enough to read. Emma was patient. Too patient. One night, it rained hard. Claire was in New York for work. The storm knocked out the power, and Daniel lit a few candles in the living room. They sat together in that soft golden light, the world outside blurred by the sound of rain. "Do you ever wish things were different?" he asked. Emma looked at him. "Different how?" "I don't know. Just simpler, easier, like when you were a kid and everything felt endless." She smiled faintly. "I wish that all the time." He nodded, staring into the flickering flame. "Claire doesn't. She likes the chase. The next thing, the next win. I admire it, but sometimes it's exhausting." Emma hesitated. "You ever tell her that?" "I try, but she's always running towards something." He paused, then glanced at Emma. "You don't run. You just stay." That sentence lived in her chest for weeks. When Claire returned, everything went back to normal, or at least it seemed to. But Emma noticed the difference in herself. The way her heart skipped when Daniel said her name, the warmth that spread when he smiled at her, the ache when he and Claire kissed hello. It wasn't love, she told herself. Just confusion, a misplaced attachment, something that would fade. But it didn't. It grew, quiet and steady, rooted in guilt and longing. Months passed. Claire's job demanded more of her time. Daniel spent long hours alone in that house that once felt full. Emma found reasons to visit again. She'd bring takeout, pretending it was a sisterly favor, pretending she didn't notice how easily they fell back into their rhythm. One evening, Daniel found one of her sketches on the counter. It was a charcoal drawing, unfinished, a pair of hands almost touching. "This is beautiful," he said. Emma blushed. It's nothing. Just practice. He shook his head. No, it's alive. The way he said it made her look up. Their eyes met, and for a second, the world went still. Then Claire called. Daniel stepped away to answer, and Emma felt her heart crash back into her chest. She packed up her things quickly, mumbling an excuse. But that night, she lay awake, replaying that look over and over until it hurt. By the time Claire and Daniel's 3rd anniversary came around, the cracks had started to show. Claire was restless, consumed by work and ambition. Daniel was quieter, more distant. Emma watched from the sidelines, pretending she didn't see it unraveling, but Daniel did. One night, he called her. His voice was low, frayed at the edges. Can you come over? I just need to talk. She shouldn't have gone. She knew that, but she did. When she arrived, Daniel was sitting on the porch, a bottle of wine beside him. He looked tired, older somehow. Claire's staying in Boston for another week, he said. She said there's too much going on at the firm. Emma sat beside him. I'm sorry, he sighed. She's brilliant. I know that. But sometimes I wonder if there's still room for us in her life. Emma didn't know what to say. She wanted to tell him he deserved more, but the words felt like poison. Instead, she said softly, You're a good man, Daniel. He turned to her, and there it was again, that look, the one that burned and comforted at the same time. Emma, he said quietly, you make it hard to remember where the lines are. Her breath caught. Then don't forget them. He smiled sadly. I try. The silence between them was heavy, filled with everything they couldn't say. When she finally left, her heart felt too big for her chest. That night, she cried. For him, for her sister, for herself. Because love, she realized, wasn't always kind. Sometimes it arrived where it shouldn't, and once it did, it refused to leave. After that night on the porch, Emma tried to stay away. She told herself it was temporary, that she just needed distance. But distance, she learned, doesn't erase feeling. It only stretches it thin until it hurts in a different way. For a few weeks, she ignored Daniel's texts. They were harmless at first. You left your scarf here. Then, hope you're doing okay. Then silence. But silence had its own voice. It spoke to her when she passed their street, when she saw a man with his same kind eyes, when she caught a scent that reminded her of the cologne he wore. And then, one day, Claire called. Can you go check on Daniel? She said briskly. He's sick. I told him to rest, but you know how he is. Emma froze. Why can't you? I'm in Chicago, a client emergency. It felt wrong even before she agreed, but she went anyway. Daniel opened the door in a sweatshirt, his hair tousled, his eyes tired. You didn't have to come, he said, voice rough from fever. Claire asked me to. He smiled faintly. Of course she did. Inside the house was dim and quiet. She made him soup, changed the sheets, opened the curtains. He protested, but weakly. It felt strangely intimate, taking care of him like that. There was no pretense, no barrier, just small human things that felt like love, even if they weren't supposed to. When she handed him the bowl, their fingers brushed. Neither of them moved away. Thank you, he said softly. Emma looked at him, at the way his face softened when he smiled. You should rest. I will. Stay a little? She did. They didn't talk much. She sat by his bed, reading a book while he drifted in and out of sleep. At one point, his hand slipped over hers, half-conscious, tender, instinctive. She didn't pull away. When she finally left, the guilt followed her like a shadow. Over the next few weeks, their connection grew quietly again. Little messages, small favors, conversations that lingered too long. Daniel told her he'd started painting again, something he hadn't done in years. He sent her a photo of a small canvas, muted colors, abstract swirls, soft blues and grays. "It's about uncertainty," he wrote. She replied, "It's beautiful." He said, "You inspired it." Emma stared at the message for a long time before deleting it, but the words stayed in her chest. When Claire came home, she didn't notice the subtle tension between them. She was too consumed by her work, too proud of her latest victory, a partnership deal that meant she'd be traveling even more. Daniel was supportive, as always. He congratulated her, opened champagne, smiled for photos. But Emma saw the distance in his eyes. Later that night, she caught him outside, sitting alone on the back steps, staring at the dark yard. "She's happy," Emma said quietly. "She is," he replied. "And I want to be happy for her." "You don't sound convinced." He sighed. "It's not her fault. It's me. I used to think marriage meant two people moving in the same direction. Lately it feels like we're running on parallel tracks, close, but never touching." Emma swallowed hard. "That happens sometimes. Maybe it'll get better." He turned to her. "And if it doesn't?" She hesitated. "Then you fight for it." He smiled, but it didn't reach his eyes. "I don't even know what I'm fighting for anymore." The air between them felt heavy again, like that night months ago. Something unspoken hovered in the space, fragile and dangerous. "Daniel," she said finally, "don't look at me like that." "Like what?" "Like I'm an answer to something." He stood, his voice low. "Maybe you are." For a moment, she thought he might kiss her. Her heart pounded so loudly she could hear it in her ears. But he didn't. He stepped back instead, his hands trembling. "I can't," he said. "I won't do that to her." Emma nodded, tears stinging her eyes. "Good, because I couldn't live with myself if you did." Then she turned and left, forcing herself not to look back. Weeks passed, and Emma threw herself into her work. She took more freelance art commissions, avoided family dinners, ignored Claire's hints about setting her up with someone from her office. But love is stubborn. It finds ways to return. One afternoon, Claire called, her voice rushed and distracted. "Emma, could you do me a favor? I left my presentation file at home. Daniel can't find it. Can you drop by and help him?" Emma froze. "I'm busy. Please, it's urgent." Against her better judgment, she went. Daniel was sitting on the floor, surrounded by papers, his hair a mess, frustration written all over his face. "I swear she hides things just to test me," he muttered. Emma laughed despite herself. "You're hopeless." He looked up, that familiar warmth flickering in his expression. "You came." "Only because she begged me." "Still counts." They found the file eventually, tucked under a stack of bills, but neither of them moved after that. They just sat there, side by side, silent except for the faint hum of the fridge. "I miss talking to you," Daniel said finally. "You shouldn't." "I know, but I do." Emma closed her eyes. "This has to stop." "I've tried," he said, voice raw. "Believe me. So have I." Their eyes met, and something inside her broke. The months of restraint, guilt, confusion, they all collapsed in that moment. When he reached for her, she didn't stop him. His hand cupped her face, tentative, trembling. Their lips met, soft at first, then desperate. The world went silent. It wasn't just a kiss. It was everything they'd both been holding back. The longing, the loneliness, the fear, the need. When they finally pulled apart, Emma's heart was pounding. "This can't happen again," she whispered. He nodded. "I know." But they both knew it was a lie. The next few weeks were a blur. Stolen moments, Careful glances, secret messages. They never spoke of love, never made promises. It was fragile, doomed, but real in a way that neither of them could deny. Daniel looked alive again. He laughed more, painted more. Emma tried not to think about what it meant. And then one night, Claire came home early. Emma was there. She had come to drop off a painting Daniel had framed for her. It was supposed to be quick. But when Claire walked in, suitcase still in hand, her smile froze at the sight of them standing too close, eyes betraying what words had not. "What's going on?" she asked quietly. Emma's throat went dry. "Nothing." Daniel opened his mouth, then closed it again. Claire stared at them, her gaze moving from one face to the other. "Tell me the truth." No one spoke. The silence answered for them. Claire laughed once, a sharp, disbelieving sound. "Unbelievable! My sister! Of all people!" "Claire," Daniel began, but she held up her hand. "Don't. Just don't." Her voice cracked. "I trusted both of you." Emma tried to reach her. "It wasn't planned. I never wanted—" "Save it," Claire snapped. "You can have him if you think that's what you want, but you'll lose me." Then she left, slamming the door so hard it echoed through the house. Emma sank to the floor, shaking. Daniel stood there, pale, motionless. "This was my fault," she whispered. "No," he said quietly. "It was mine." They sat in silence, both knowing something irreversible had just happened. Later that night he said, "She'll never forgive us." Emma nodded, tears streaming down her face. "Then maybe we deserve that." When she finally did, it wasn't to talk. She walked straight past Daniel, packed a small suitcase, and left again without looking back. The silence she left behind was heavier than any shouting could have been. Daniel tried calling her. She didn't answer. He sent messages that went unread, left voicemails that echoed into emptiness. Emma stayed away, torn between wanting to fix things and knowing she was the reason everything broke. For the first time in her life, Emma hated herself. Her parents found out soon after. Claire told them, of course she did. She didn't cry, at least not in front of them, but her voice must have carried all the pain Emma had caused. When her mother called, her disappointment was worse than any anger could have been. "Emma," she said quietly, "you've done something I don't know if any of us can understand." "I know. I raised you girls to protect each other. What happened to that?" Emma couldn't answer, because how could she explain something she didn't understand herself? Love wasn't logical, it wasn't clean. It grew in cracks and shadows, and once it bloomed, you couldn't always pull it out without bleeding. A few years later, Emma's art gained quiet recognition. Her collections focused on the human heart, on longing, guilt, and forgiveness. Critics called her work pain transformed into peace. She never corrected them. At one gallery opening, a woman approached her, older now, elegant, familiar. "Claire." For a moment, neither spoke. Then Claire said softly, "You've come a long way." "So have you," Emma said. Claire smiled faintly. "I heard about your exhibit. I thought, maybe it's time." Emma nodded, her voice barely a whisper. "I've missed you." Claire's eyes softened. "I know, me too." There were no tears, no apologies, just two sisters standing quietly, finally on the same side of the past. Later that night, Emma looked out at the crowd, strangers admiring her work, her life rebuilt from the pieces of what she once destroyed. She didn't regret loving Daniel. She regretted the hurt it caused, but not the truth of it. Because it had changed her, shaped her, made her brave enough to live honestly, even when honesty came with scars. And as she watched Claire smile from across the room, Emma realized that some loves aren't meant to last. They're meant to transform.